I was about to go live and I have a video ready to go, but I guess that one's going to have to wait and I'm going to have to post this because this is amazing news. Strickland versus Abus Magomedov, Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier, and Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns. All of them are in the works or official. I'm going to break them down right now in today's video, and we're going to start straight away with Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns is official for UFC 288. I guess Belal Muhammad could make 170. You're welcome. Hey, because Belal Muhammad was talking about, I don't know if I can make 170. I can't make 170. It's going to have to be 175. And then once I made that video and it nearly got 60k views, putting him in his place and telling him, no, you must make 170 for this matchup, all of a sudden, Belal Muhammad can make 170. So you're welcome, MMA fans. Gilbert Burns versus Belal Muhammad. This has got to be a title elimination bout. This has got to be a title elimination bout. Massive matchup in the co-main event of UFC 288. Let's be honest, out of all the people that Gilbert Burns could have potentially faced in terms of Dustin Poirier or Colby Covington or Belal Muhammad, this is the least interesting out of all of them. However, Belal Muhammad arguably is the most deserving out of all of them to get this title elimination bout opportunity. And all I'm going to say is this, is if this fight goes ahead and there's no problems whatsoever, and the winner is very clearly crowned out of the two of them, forget Colby Covington's title shot. There is no way, and Colby Covington right now must be absolutely panicking. Absolutely panicking. He's just done a whole media tour thinking that he's got himself the title shot. If they still give him a title shot in, say, October or September or August, after this fight happens, they can't justify it. And the whole MMA world is going to go against Colby Covington and against the UFC for even trying to make that matchup happen between Covington and Edwards. But the weird part is, even though these two have taken this fight against each other, I can strangely still see the UFC saying, nope, we've given it to Colby Covington because I'm telling you, he's got dirt on someone. I thought it was the court case. Maybe not. If they're still going to give Covington a title shot over the winner of Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns at UFC 288, I'm telling you he's got dirt on someone. There's no other explanation for it whatsoever. They can't keep pulling this off. And I could honestly see them, if the winner of this is the winner of this at UFC 288, Gilbert Burns or Belal Muhammad, I could honestly see them saying, you know what, Covington's going to get the title shot against Leon Edwards. Everyone kicks up a massive fuss, and the winner of this ends up being like a short notice backup opponent for that title shot, which is absolutely ridiculous, but I could honestly still see it happening. So, here we go. Belal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns. Massive matchup. I don't know why Belal Muhammad's name is first. Is he ranked above Gilbert Burns right now? He is. That literally makes zero sense. Gilbert Burns beat Wonderboy before him. I don't understand that. I guess Belal Muhammad has that win over Vicente Luque, and Sean Brady. Fair enough. I just thought Burns' recent win would top him above Belal Muhammad at number 4, but all good. Massive matchup in the welterweight division, and yeah, the winner of this has got to be ranked number 3 and has to get a title shot next. There's no way they're going to have to fight another time after this one, and I feel like Gilbert Burns is going to get this one done. And this is only one of the great fight announcements that have came out recently. So, yeah, saved the UFC 288 card. It's still not the best card, but I feel like when fights get put together on very short notice, it makes it more interesting than if we knew about this fight happening on the card for the past 8 or 9 weeks. The fact that all of this crazy situation has gone on in the MMA world over the past couple of days of Gilbert Burns wanting to step up makes this more of a fight. You know what I mean? It kind of feels that way, like when Masvidal stepped in to fight Usman for the title. It was just more of a situation and more of a huge event because of the crazy stories and news in like the couple of days before the fight actually happened. So massive respect to Gilbert Burns. Big respect to Belal Muhammad at the end of the day. After a good old thrashing, after a good old verbal thrashing from the MMA guru, Belal Muhammad has decided to, you know what, maybe I will make 170 because this is a 170-pound matchup and they have to make weight. 5-round co-main event, which is very interesting. to be honest with you, because Belal Muhammad was saying that he might not be in great shape. Gilbert Burns is in fight shape right now. I mean, might have had a little bit of enjoyment after his win against Masvidal, but he's in fight shape right now, more fight shape than Belal Muhammad is. So it's interesting this is 5 rounds. I think that has something to do with Gilbert Burns, to be honest with you. Or maybe Belal Muhammad still likes his cardio over Gilbert Burns, because at the end of the day, they do have a couple of weeks to still get ready for this one. But yeah, massive matchup. I'm going to go with Gilbert Burns getting this one done. I think he'll chin Belal Muhammad on the feet. If Belal wins, big respect. Big respect. He'll finally have beaten like a solid top level welterweight in Gilbert Burns. And let's say he finishes him at all, or just beats him clearly, he'll have done better than Chimaev did, which is absolutely crazy to think about. The problem I have is Belal Muhammad has been fighting people that have been non-stop worried about his takedowns. Sean Brady can't strike on the feet. He was a little bit overrated going into that fight. I know I picked him, but I really thought Belal Muhammad was a bit overrated as well, and he ended up just winning as soon as he landed one clean punch. Sean Brady quit on the feet and stopped throwing back completely. So either way, I think Gilbert Burns is not going to fear being taken to the ground whatsoever, and I can see him cracking Belal Muhammad on the chin. After already having 2 training camps back-to-back, he's clearly healthy. That's something we know about Gilbert Burns. He's clearly really healthy and not injured in any way to start looking for these types of matchups. Because he easily could say, I'm not taking this matchup right now. I just fought. I need some time off. But the fact that he's willing to get right back in there means that he's absolutely healthy, whereas Belal Muhammad might just be sort of taking advantage of the opportunity. So, massive matchup. I think Gilbert Burns is going to drop him and sub him, or just finish him off by TKO. I think Burns versus Belal Muhammad is sort of like Luque versus Belal Muhammad, but this time the person fighting Belal Muhammad is not scared of the takedown whatsoever like Vicente Luque was. So I feel like Burns is going to have some success here. So respect to both of them saving the card. It's still not the greatest of cards, but I do like that this bit of news has spiced up the interest around that card. It's not a pathetically disgraceful card anymore. The main event is still interesting anyway. So great job, both of them. The winner should get a title shot, but I bet you they end up being the backup for Covington versus Edwards. I'm telling you, Covington has dirt on someone at the UFC. We move on to another fight that got announced, which was Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier. Massive matchup. I don't know if it's the main event, to be honest with you. Oh, it is a main event. That makes sense. Apex main event. UFC at Las Vegas, Nevada, to be announced. UFC Apex, apparently June the 17th is when this fight is happening. I like that Marvin Vettori is staying active. I like that Jared Cannonier is staying reasonably active, because let's not forget, he only fought in December, so this is, what, a 5-month turnaround for him? Maybe a 6-month turnaround? I'm not sure. I'm losing my mind a little bit here. There's a lot of news that just came out in the recent few minutes. So, yeah, really big news. When is this again? June the 17th is when this event is. Okay, that one didn't have a main event. UFC Fight Night card. And now it does. Amazing main event in the middleweight division. This makes absolute sense, in my opinion. They're the only 2 top 5 guys that haven't fought each other yet in any way whatsoever. So maybe they could have done like Costa versus Cannonier, but now we know that they want to do Costa versus Chimaev. That kind of takes him out of that conversation. And both guys are ready to go. So I like Vettori's chances here. I've been kind of underwhelmed by a lot of the performances of Jared Cannonier recently. I feel like the age is starting to catch up with him a little bit. He didn't look terrible against Izzy, but that was a different Israel Adesanya. For some whatever reason, whenever Adesanya's back is against the wall, his gyno flares up a bit and he like gains knockout power. Same thing against Paulo Costa and Alex Pereira in the rematch. But in other performances, he just sort of coasts to a win and does barely enough each and every round. But Cannonier didn't look bad against him. But after being so old, Jared Cannonier this is. After he is so old and he's just got his chance at the belt and he's been beaten quite comfortably, it's just like, where does he find the motivation to pick himself back up? He's not going to get a title shot with this win. Vettori's still incredibly young. He didn't look great in his last fight, but that chin, I don't see Cannonier KOing him. And in a 5-rounder, if Strickland can kind of put work rate on Cannonier, I can see Vettori doing it, but doing it with a little bit more sting in his shots. So I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori winning this fight, not to mention he kicks a lot more. He'll be more willing to wrestle than Sean Strickland will be. And yeah, just recently in Jared Cannonier's career, I haven't been too impressed by his performances. Even his performance against Kelvin Gastelum, when Gastelum took it on like a week's notice. It was a very close fight. You know, I watched that one back whenever I was breaking down Gastelum versus Chris Curtis. But it was a very uneventful performance from him again. He dropped Gastelum in one moment, but other than that, he just went tit for tat with him. Like, it's just, haven't been impressed with him recently. Neither have I by Vettori, but if I can count on either one of them to try and pick up their game a little bit, it's going to be the 29-year-old instead of the... I mean, how old is Jared Cannonier now? I'm going to have to check real quick. It's going to be the 29-year-old Marvin Vettori instead of the 39-year-old Jared Cannonier. Yeah, I've got to go Vettori. Strickland arguably could have beaten Cannonier. I know Strickland's pretty underrated as a middleweight, and we'll get to his fight, which got announced recently as well. But I've got to go Marvin Vettori here. I can just see Cannonier. Here's the thing with Vettori. He's got a granite chin, but we know he has one because he gets hit a lot, which is a big deal here because it's not like Cannonier's going to be landing a big shot each round or a couple of big shots each round and Vettori's going to eat them. I think Vettori's going to be there to be hit by Cannonier, and Cannonier's stopped swinging so hard recently. He started to try and place his shots and be a much more technical fighter. That's what we saw against Strickland. That's what we saw against Israel Adesanya in his title fight, and even against Kelvin in some moments as well. He stopped swinging like a KO guy. And maybe that power just ain't quite there in the way that it was anymore. So not only can I see him not being able to KO Marvin Vettori, but I can see this being quite a high-paced fight where he throws a lot of KO blows that don't KO Marvin Vettori. And then I can see Vettori coming out on the other end of it and picking up the W. You know? Even though he didn't look great against Roman Dolidze, he doesn't have to worry about any takedowns in this matchup. I'm sure he was thinking about them the whole time against Roman Dolidze. I feel like he'll pick this one up. He added a couple leg kicks to his game in his last fight. It's clear he started adding some different moves to go to. So I'm going to go towards Marvin Vettori here. You know, Jared Cannonier, age is not on his side at 39 years of age. So, yeah, definitely Marvin Vettori. Great matchup in the main event of that fight night card. That's a fight night main event I can get behind. Not Pennington versus Aldana 2, which I made a video about earlier today, but that one can wait. We move on to another bit of news, which is Sean Strickland versus Abus Magomedov. Abus Magomedov versus Sean Strickland. I've seen some people saying should have been Hermansson versus Abus, but Hermansson's fighting Brendan Allen, so these guys are casuals. They don't know what they're talking about. Come on now. It's kind of weird that this is a main event. It's another Apex fight night, July the 1st. This is a main event of a fight night. Abus Magomedov just won his debut. I know Strickland will kind of sell an Apex fight night main event because he'll have a bunch of great media moments in the build-up and he'll have a good press conference and that'll get a couple of 100,000 views on the Mac Life and that'll drive some attention towards the fight night card. But this one's got to have a solid undercard though. I know Strickland's a top-ranked guy, but, you know, waiting until July 1st for this. July fight nights should be really good. So I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't end up being the main event. But then again, Pennington versus Aldana 2 is a main event. So what am I talking about? Maybe it will be. But it looks like that's what they're doing now with these Apex cards, to be honest with you. I don't mind the Cannonier versus Marvin Vettori one as an Apex fight night main event. But I do mind this. It's just like, it seems lazy now with the Apex. Like, oh, it's an Apex card. Chuck any old fight on the main event of it. Like, I like that we're getting a good notice ahead of time, but I don't know, man. This just seems a bit lazy of the UFC to give a guy who just beat Dustin Stoltzfus, who is 1-3 in the UFC. I get trying to move him up to get into the top of the division and jump him up against a top contender because he's old and he doesn't have much time left of his prime. I believe Abus Magomedov is about 32, 33. He's 32 years of age, born in September. He's soon to be 33. He came off a highlight reel KO. He's been at the PFL for a long time, so he's had a long career. You know, he's not a new guy to the game. He's 25-4 for crying out loud, so he's no joke. I get why they're doing this, because Strickland's just looking to fight anyone at this point as well. But I'm probably going to go with Strickland, because it wasn't that long ago. In fact, it was a couple of months ago where Strickland beat Imavov on a week's notice. And I thought Imavov was like another one of these Magomedov type guys that was going to come up and beat these dudes at the top of the middleweight division. And it seems like there's a massive barrier reef of skill between the unranked middleweights and the top-ranked middleweights. And it's not like Abus Magomedov's never lost before. You know, he got KO'd by a 17-4 Lewis Taylor, who was on the sauce. You know what I'm saying? But he's lost a few fights before that as well. Not for a while. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Not too crazy of a win streak, but before that, he was on quite a tear over at PFL. You know what I mean? But who you fighting, dude? Taking a Sadabu Sai 7-3 guy to a decision win. I'm definitely going to side with Sean Strickland getting this one done. If he stays safe early on, which I think he will, I think he can pick this up over 5 rounds and get it done. So we'll see how it goes. Great matchup's been made, though. We've also had a little bit of an announcement about Oliveira versus Dariush being officially moved over to UFC 289 at lightweight, which is really good news as well. But, you know, that was kind of known already. And other than that, we've got a few other matchups that have been made. Imavov versus Curtis. I'm probably going to side with Chris Curtis here. That's also at UFC 289. Good matchup, though. Chris Curtis is delusional and probably won't improve between fights because he doesn't accept defeat. So maybe Nasruddin Imavov will have an edge there. Maybe he will take from his loss against Strickland. I just think there's a reason Curtis is taking this fight. You know what I mean? Like, it's a great fight for Curtis. He can get himself right back in the rankings, but he trains with Strickland on a regular basis. He must hang with Strickland pretty well and know that Strickland beat this dude on a week's notice after not training beforehand and having a bunch of extra body fat on him. So I'm going to side with Chris Curtis here, being a little bit better takedown defensive of a guy than Joaquin Buckley with a bit crisper striking as well. And I think that'll be enough to beat Nasruddin Imavov. So that's who I've got in that matchup. Khalil Roundtree versus Chris Daukaus. Battle of the loose skin. I'm going to go with Khalil Roundtree here. I think he has a massive advantage over Chris Daukaus. Chris Daukaus is terrible. Heavyweights are terrible in general. And Khalil Roundtree's really good at striking. Chris Daukaus is going to get exposed on the feet here. I don't know why he's doing this. I understand moving down in the rankings, but you can't take a bit of a layup first? You just want to get straight back in there with Khalil Roundtree, and you're going to try and strike with him. I can see him not really having the same speed advantage that he had at heavyweight down at light heavyweight. I don't think his power is all that great anyway. I just think landing in general at heavyweight usually is going to dish out some KO ability. But at light heavyweight, we'll see what kind of shape he's in, but I don't know, dude. Great fight for UFC 289. I'm glad it's getting some big fights on there, but I've got Khalil Roundtree really doing some damage to Daukaus. I think he's got a massive, massive gulf of a difference in striking skill. And we also have Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda. Great matchup. Also Salikov versus Dalby. Good for Muslim Salikov. Free paycheck. Should win that one pretty easily. But yeah, Alex Caceres versus Daniel Pineda. I'm leaning towards Alex Caceres because difficult guy to finish. Very tricky on the feet. And has a really good cardio for a free rounder. I could see him being a little bit too awkward and goofy for a guy like Pineda to score a finish over and potentially maybe getting a finish in the third round or winning a decision. He had a really close fight with Sadiq Youssef, so I'm going to side with Alex Caceres there. Another great fight, and that one is on the June 3rd card in a location to be announced. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Huge news. Had to break it down.